I'm Vanessa Rodriguez with Justice 45 KUVI. I'd like to welcome our guest, Sergeant Ryan Croker from the Bakersfield Police Department. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
So this morning I would like to talk to you. I mean, the Kern County, we're going through a lot with burglaries right now. What kind of recommendations do you give us? What homes are easily targeted right now?
Sure. So residential burglaries are something that we've seen as a police department or a law enforcement agency for some time. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. But right now, roughly, there's an average of anywhere between 1,700 and 1,800 residential burglaries that take place every year within the city of Bakersfield and the Bakersfield Police Department's jurisdiction. So some of the things that we are doing and some of the things that we're noticing and trying to come up with some common things that homeowners can do to protect themselves, whether it's an apartment or a residence. And one of the main things is lock your doors. That's one of the things where it sounds basic, it sounds simple, but just locking your doors is one of the main things that I think will keep intruders away. One of the things that we have seen is that traditionally home burglaries are occurring between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So times when individuals are away from their home, they're at work, they're out running errands, those types of things. So those are the time frames where the majority, roughly a third, a little bit more than a third of these home burglaries are taking place.
Are people usually coming in through the front door?
So some of the main entry points that individuals are using or criminals that are using to break into our homes and stealing a lot of our prized possessions and those types of things are through the front doors. They're kicking in the front door when they realize that nobody's home, and then they're going in within minutes. They can completely ransack your house, take your valuables, and be off and gone. So the front doors is one of the main points of entry. Another main point of entry are rear windows or rear doors. So encourage homeowners, lock your doors, lock your windows, put some kind of reinforcing bars in place to help keep your windows secure. Also, some areas that you wouldn't really think of are doggy doors. Some of these criminals are smaller, and they've been known to go through doggy doors or some smaller doors that some of these homes have nowadays, especially for if you're gone, your pets, you want them to go in and out. So if you do buy a doggy door, you have one, do something to secure it to make sure that it doesn't open easily. Okay,
thank you. What about the Nextdoor app? I mean, how successful has that been?
Sure, so the Nextdoor app has been very successful, and it's a way for us at the Bakersfield Police Department and as well as individuals who live in certain areas of town to communicate with each other. So we will push out information, safety tips, trends that we are seeing, all those types of things, to push out to individuals to empower themselves, to equip them with the tools necessary to safeguard their homes, safeguard their neighborhoods, and we're very, very vigilant about doing that. And because education is key, we want to make sure that the public's educated on how they can prevent themselves from being victims.
Yeah, I find it to be really nice because you're able to post when you see somebody in your neighborhood that shouldn't be in your neighborhood. So that's kind of been really helpful for my area. We're kind of able to communicate with a neighbor that I wouldn't normally talk to on a normal day to day.
Sure. Yeah, as a police department, we have limited resources. There's only a certain amount of officers. There's only certain places that we can be at certain times. So one of the things and a big vision of our chief of police is a community-oriented policing model, is us working with the community and the community working with us to partner in everything that we do. So if we need to educate our citizens on how to keep themselves safe, and the more that we can collaborate as citizens and work together, less law enforcement is going to be needed, and then we'll be available to handle other calls and be available to handle different circumstances. So that's one of the reasons why we promote our Neighborhood Watch program through the Bakersfield Police Department, to try to get neighbors to know each other. And I think if you look traditionally, in olden times, neighbors knew each other.
Right.
They would eat together, they would hang out together, they would socialize together. Not so much nowadays. So that's one of the things that we really promote is Neighborhood Watch. Let's get together, let's talk, let's work together to collaborate and look for suspicious subjects. Look for behavior that just doesn't look right and out of place, and then call that information in for us so we can respond and prevent these burglaries, for example, from happening. So that's a big thing that we're really trying to do as well.
Another question for you. Typically when somebody breaks into a home, is it usually another home in the area that do they go from home to home, or are you seeing them going to a different area to burglarize?
Yeah, so it depends. So a lot of the suspects and that we've seen are oftentimes they may burglarize a couple of houses in a neighborhood, or they may just do one and then be gone and go out. Oftentimes what we do see, especially from that 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. range that we spoke about, is it could be 2 to 3 or even 4 suspects will walk up to a house. A lot of times what they'll do is they'll knock on the door. If nobody answers the door during that time, there's no cars parked out front, there's probably a good likelihood that nobody's going to be home. Then what we've seen is that one of those or two of those individuals will then force entry into that residence, begin removing items and taking items while another subject or suspect will be standing outside posing as a lookout. Traditionally, usually it's one house or two houses in that neighborhood, and then they'll try to get away. However, there's no commonality sometimes. Sometimes it differs depending on the suspects, their motive, how greedy they are, you know, what their need is at that point in time. And oftentimes it's not suspects who live in that neighborhood. You know, so we've seen a variety of cases where suspects will live in a certain portion of town and they'll travel to another portion of town to commit these offenses. So they do vary.
Okay. So what prevention tips could you give our viewers in regards to preventing themselves to becoming a victim?
Well, I think when we start talking about hardening your structure or hardening the target is kind of where I'll start. And I think one is make sure you can do everything you can do to prevent your house or your apartment to be less likely to be victimized. And that would be one is alarm systems. Those are always beneficial. Heavy duty secure bolts on your doors. So a lot of the factory made screws that hold your doors in or hold your doors affixed to the walls, those can break very easily or give way. Reinforce it with some heavy duty screws and bars. Those types of things will help. Locking your windows, putting reinforcements behind your windows, and just making your target, your residence, a very difficult place for somebody to go in, because a lot of criminals, they don't want to spend a lot of time. They want to be in and they want to be out and they want to get on their way. So if you can make your residence a very hard target, a lot of times they'll either bypass it, or once they realize that it's not easy to get into, they'll move onto the next one. Another thing too is keep your house well manicured. Keep your bushes trimmed, make it so there's no hiding places. If you have a vehicle, keep it parked outside if you can. Don't leave your garage door openers in your vehicles, because oftentimes suspects, they see a car parked out front with a garage door opener, they'll break the window to your car, open your garage door, they can go in and then shut the garage door, and it may not even appear that anybody's inside at that time. And then two, on the other aspect of it is know your neighbors. You know their schedules, know when they're at work, know when they come, know when they go. So you can call when you see somebody that's maybe hanging around their house that shouldn't be there. That suspicious behavior is suspicious for a reason. So we encourage people to call the police department, report that suspicious behavior. We'll come out and deal with it and hopefully prevent these crimes from happening.
Thank you, Ryan, for being here.
My pleasure.
You're watching Justice 45 KUVI. Until then, be aware and be safe.